Hey everybody, it's Greg the Gamer. Hey, just wanted to hop in for a quick video on what we have. We finally have it, the announcement for Europa Universalis 5. Project Caesar, we always suspected that was going to be EU5, but today we finally had that confirmed with the announcement video that Paradox put out just a few minutes ago. So I wanted to just hop on here real quick and give you my thoughts on what was announced, kind of the good, the bad, and maybe the ugly a little bit, about what we could maybe expect from EU5. You can currently wishlist it on Steam. There is no, ETA for that, no date. But it seems likely that we don't have a date on the Steam page, that it's probably not going to be released in 2025. I suspect somewhere maybe second or third quarter 2026, but, I'd love to be wrong. So before we hop into things, just a little tidbit. I used to play EU4. I played it quite a bit when it first launched in 2013, though I really haven't played it in years. Probably have a few hundred hours on the original game before all the DLC was added in 2013. And I enjoyed the game for when it was, released and what it was at the time. Other games kind of sparked my interest a little bit more, particularly in 2016 when Hoi 4 came out. What I got from EU5 is it seems to be a blending of CK2 and maybe Victoria 3. With, obviously the bones of EU4 in there as well. This is you can see on your screen right now, this is the political map in 1337. It's going to be a vast map, but I digress. So it seems to be taking some of the elements of the narrative elements of CK2 and a lot of the kind of the pop management and grand strategic economic kind of simulator role of Victoria 3. So I guess the big question that I have, first and foremost, is this going to be a new engine for Paradox that they used to build EU5? We haven't had a new engine announcement, so we just assume that it's the Clausewitz engine. That engine is getting rather long in the tooth, so hopefully we're going to get a new dynamic engine, but no promises on that. Yeah, they keep saying that this is going to be the most ambitious and dynamic grand strategy game they've ever released. They wanted an immersive game they kept saying dynamic and immersive and a living world. I don't really know entirely what that means precisely, but I'm interested in that. So that gets me to the good. So when you're saying that this is going to be the most immersive, dynamic, lived-in world that you've ever created, that really that makes me interested. Makes me really interested. I'd assume it's going to be a little bit more dynamic than simply pop-ups. But who really knows? I do like the ability to continuously change your world by the decisions you make as a ruler. They said that the game, first and foremost, started with community-driven feedback from EU4. And I would expect community feedback driven by Victoria 3 and Hoi 4 as well. Having said that, it does seem that some of the elements of Vicky 3 that were kind of derived by the community seem to be kind of sprinkled in here as well, and I'll get that in just a moment. Also, they seem to have created a new Paradox studio in Spain. And I believe it's the Paradox Tinto studio. So they're developing EU5. I don't know if it's the same development team that built EU4, though it does seem like there's a lot of connective tissue there, and probably quite a few people, most likely from that original team, are working there as well. You do seem that the game is going to be taking place a little bit longer time period than EU4. The game starts in 1337 and goes to 1837. So it's like 500 years of history in which you can grow your nation and go through the different changing environments of history. Obviously, a tremendous amount of world events takes place over 500 years. The map does look very similar to the 2K or the CK2 map. I don't actually think that's a negative. I think that's a positive. I do think it's a very beautiful map for Crusader Kings 2. I think if you could expand upon that, and it looks like maybe they have. I like that. I like that as a way to delineate this game from EU4. And also in the good section, I would say is it was announced that this game, over 500 years of history, is going to take place over 6 ages, effectively. So I don't want to think of it as like Civilization 7, because I know that has a whole nother can of worms there, but that game is separated by ages that you unlock, 3 of them. Now this game is going to have 6 ages over 500 years. We don't really know much about that, but we do know, and frankly, we don't know what would cause the shift into a new age. As the ages change, it does seem like maybe there are end of age events or crises events that will pop up. In this case, the Black Death spreads to Europe. So I don't know if all the ages will get something to that effect, but I do like that. It does seem to, it makes the world a little more of a living environment and something that you have to overcome. Each of those ages has different institutions that you can unlock in there. So what is an institution? So effectively, institutions are ideas that have spread across the world and that you can explore. Some examples that they gave was the quest for the New World. So if you decide that your nation is going to be colonizing in the New World, and that's an institution that you really want to focus on, you can unlock that. Now, if each of these institutions unlocks a new technological tree, each age and each institution seems to have technology linked to that. So not everyone's going to have the same exact technological tree. So I have no idea what that will look like long term, but I think that's pretty intriguing. I do like that. Obviously, there'll be some overlap. There has to be technology. There's always overlap in an age based on, what does the age call for? Sailing technology, gunpowder tech, printing press, all these things. Obviously, there's going to be overlap. Another example they gave for institutions would be like a political institution would be you could go spiritualist if you wanted to, and that would be easier for converting populace and potentially keeping down, strife amongst the pops from conquered territories as you convert them into effectively the pop that you wish them to be spiritually, making them more compliant. Alternative to that would be, once it is an option in, political thought, would be humanism and the ability to try to make your society as equal as possible. Kind of coming into kind of the middle of the road kind of stuff I'm kind of okay with, and it does give me a little bit of pause, and then I'll kind of finish up with some of the warning signs, some of the negative stuff that I personally thought of in this announcement. You have the population. Obviously, your pops are incredibly important to your game. Just like they were in EU4, but I would say that the population mechanic is going to get an upgrade in a big way, much more akin to Victoria 3. All right, so the population groups there, the strata, are incredibly important, not only for your industry and the ability to expand economically, but militarily, and obviously that's going to dictate where you go politically. So in Victoria 3, obviously the strata of your pop groups are very dynamic, and so there are a lot of them, and they all have different needs, different expectations, different hopes and dreams, that sort of thing. And so you're always playing a kind of, in my approximation, a catch-up game. You're obviously, you can make some groups happy, but there's always going to be pop groups that aren't going to be happy. And it seems like they're going to be taking that dynamic from Victoria 3 and really expanding that in EU5. So that is apparently a direction that Paradox is indicated that they want to move into. Also, that will have an impact on a number of things, including warfare. In Victoria 3, obviously, you have kind of levy units unless you have a professional trained army. And if you levy the populace from territories that you have to go and fight a war, if an army is completely annihilated in a battle, the pops that filled that army, they don't just return home. They're gone, and so that's going to have a dramatic impact on your economy. Do think that another kind of in between point here is they do have market access dynamic. So in Victoria 3, you have different markets, of course. If you're England or France or Germany or whatever. You all have different markets, and you have different nations that you can trade with that are in those markets. Those markets can change and adapt and can grow and expand and contract and all that sort of thing. It seems that market dynamic is going to make an appearance in EU5 as well. So for better or for worse, if you like the market mechanic in Victoria 3, buckle up, because that's going to be in EU5. Now, kind of getting to I'd say the uglier bits, the points of the announcement that give me pause. Now, I am a Hoi 4 player first and foremost, so I love the grand strategy warfare element of that game, and I love the micromanagement of units. I know some people don't like that, but for me, that is a great experience. Now, it seems that EU5 is going to be taking a different approach. So it seems to be a kind of a blend of all of those elements. Effectively, you're going to be having a kind of a blend of Victoria 3 grand strategy warfare, where you set an objective. I want you to take capitals, or I want you to take major cities on your army, and they go off and they do their own thing. And how they succeed or fail is dependent on the general, the quality of the training, how equipped your troops are, morale, terrain, environments, weather, all that sort of thing. But ultimately, you are stepping back from that, and you are more the nation's leader and not the field marshal that is leading the troops. It does seem that they've also incorporated some elements of moving stack armies around, like CK2. Grab a stack of troops, move them around yourself, and engage in combat that is very much akin to CK2. That's a possibility. Now, if you're somebody from the Hoi 4 community and you hate border gore, well, buckle up, because EU5 is taking that idea to the extreme here. So here's just an example of the Holy Roman Empire and all the little fiefdoms and princedoms that exist in the HRE. Well, ultimately, I would say, coming off of this, what I could take away from EU5 is a very grand strategy game that, while seemingly large, and I'm sure it will be, with a dynamic player-led environment that's always changing, with tons of immersion, pop-ups, and that sort of thing, very CK2 in that regard. It does seem like maybe a step back in some of what we consider grand strategy. And what I mean by that is there's less micromanagement. And while that would, on its surface, seem like a good thing, I actually look at that as maybe a detriment. What I can say about EU5 is they definitely seem to be pulling back from the micromanagement element of at least warfare in the game. It seems like that's definitely going to be micromanagement is definitely going to be a component in economics and pop management and faith and all that sort of thing. But when it comes to warfare, it does seem like they are leaning hard into the Victoria 3 model. Well, there we have it. We don't know a tremendous amount about EU5 just yet. They showed no game footage during the announcement video. Really just a handful of screenshots that you can see on the Steam page currently. So we have very little information about EU5. We have no release date as of yet, and we only have one dev diary that was released yesterday. And in that dev diary, it was very light on details. I'm hoping that more dev diaries will be released here very soon, so we'll get a little bit more information and kind of follow-ups on some of our questions. Particularly, I'm interested in what does warfare look like, because obviously that's a very big element of European history or world history over 500 years. So if Paradox is going to just phone that element in, and I hope they don't, that would be a huge detriment to this game in my personal opinion. But from what I did see so far, I'm intrigued. Dynamic living environment, a world that has unique pops that have different hopes and needs, political headwinds of the time, the military headwinds of the time, and so on and so forth. I do like that element. It seems much more lived in, much more human. So I'm definitely intrigued. But that's just a few of my thoughts. Just wanted to hop on and give you a few of my thoughts regarding EU5. I'd love to know your thoughts on EU5 down and below in the comments. Consider subbing to the channel for everything EU5 in the future. And I'll be back with you very soon. You guys have a terrific day. Take care.